and we are going to do a little lesson today on, I called it the daily grind, but the daily grind usually refers to your work day. It's really more a lesson about our daily routines, everything that we do from the moment we wake up in the morning until we go to bed at night. So we're going to today talk about the daily grind. Before we get started, just hello to everyone. I've been talking to a few people in the chat. It's very cool to see everyone there. I'm just going to test my, looks like everything's working. Again, we're going to do a lesson today on our daily routines. Some of you will have similar daily routines to me. Some of you might have daily routines that are a bit different, but let's get started. If you're new here, don't forget that there is a subscribe button below if you want to subscribe to my channel. Do English lessons 3 times a week. You're welcome to always join watching videos on Tuesday and 2 live lessons every weekend. So today we're going to talk about daily routine. Oh, I was going to say click thumbs up too if you'd like to do that. So I put a rooster on here. This is a male chicken and we call it a rooster, and we don't use this animal as an alarm clock anymore. But a long time ago, when people lived on farms and they had chickens, they would wake up because the rooster would crow. When you wake up, again, it's when you're lying in bed and the first moment you open your eyes and you become awake, that is when you wake up. So I couldn't find a nice, the paper isn't cooperating today. I could not find a nice picture of a person opening their eyes. So I thought I would put a rooster here instead. So a rooster in English says cock-a-doodle-doo. I'll put that in the chat for you. Cock-a-doodle-doo. I know it sounds funny, but that's what, if you read a children's book and there's a rooster in there waking people up, that's what they will say. So when you hear that, it's time to get up. Most of us have alarm clocks. And again, this lesson is more than a vocabulary lesson. I'm going to talk about, obviously, we have alarm clocks. This is an old alarm clock. Newer alarm clocks are digital. And before you go to bed, you set your alarm or you set your alarm clock. So that's the verb you would use. You would choose the time that you want to wake up. And as you are going to bed, you would set your alarm clock, and then your alarm clock goes off in the morning. So that's how we talk about alarm clocks. So we would say, my alarm went off at 7 a.m. or my alarm clock went off at 7 a.m. So you set your alarm or you set your alarm clock, and your alarm clock goes off at a certain time. So it goes beep or it rings, whatever sound yours makes. Maybe it's the radio. Or your alarm goes off. So we use alarm and alarm clock interchangeably. So anyways, again, welcome to all the people flooding in. I'm always a little shocked when I look down and I see the count that there's 250 people here. This is an English lesson. We are live. Todd, if you could post the link. If you have questions during this live lesson, please use the link in the chat to post them. Or to ask them, and then every about 5, just one sec here. Oh, you know the fly that was bugging me last week? I think he just met his end. So anyways, we do have a link. I will post it here. Then Todd can copy and paste it a few times. Oh, he just got it. Sorry, Todd. I was just a little bit ahead of you. If you have questions, please use that link. And make sure the questions are about our daily routine. If you ask questions that are off topic, we're going to try and stay on topic. So there's 2 phrases. Once you wake up, once you go from sleeping to being awake, you either get up or you get out of bed. You can use either of these phrases. So every morning, my alarm clock goes off at 6:30. And I get up at around 6:35. I don't get out of bed right away. Or I could say I get out of bed around 6:35. So you could use both of these. This lady's getting out of bed to greet her day. Sometimes we say that, it's a little poetic, but she's getting up and she's getting out of bed. And then I have to admit, I don't do this very well, but a lot of people, after they get out of bed or after they get up, they make their bed or they make the bed. That's where you put the blankets and the pillows back in a nice tidy order. So people get up or they get out of bed and then they make their bed. Let me just check if there's questions. There are no questions yet. Hopefully that link is working. Again, if you have questions, please ask them using the link that's in the chat. I'm just going to test to make sure it's working. Sometimes it acts a little weird. I think it is working though. Yes, it's working great. Okay, so we're going to keep moving on. A lot of times, this is a little awkward to talk about. Awkward means it's uncomfortable to talk about, but a lot of times the first thing people do when they get up is they use the bathroom or they go to the bathroom. So maybe when you get up in the morning, you feel the need to use the toilet. I'm not going to use all the descriptive words of what you would do here, but often in our daily routine, the alarm goes off, we wake up, we get out of bed, and then a lot of times the first thing people do is they use the bathroom, or in Canadian English we say go to the washroom, yeah, it's awkward to talk. Why is it awkward to talk about? When you eat, other things happen a few hours later. So sometimes when you get up, you need to go to the bathroom. This is something I do. Oh, there's another fly here. Do you think I can get it? Nope. Oh, sorry. I just shook the camera. I think all of you have flies in your countries, don't you? Flies are a little bit annoying in the summer. Some people, they exercise almost every morning. It's part of their daily routine. Maybe they go for a walk. Maybe they go for a run. I try to go for a walk usually 5 or 6 days a week. I get up, I use the washroom or I use the bathroom. Sometimes I have a little drink of water and I'll go for a walk, especially if it's going to be hot out that day. I try to go for a walk earlier in the day before it gets hot. And just so you know, let me just click something here. Just so you know, it's going to be really hot where I am in Canada today. But I feel bad saying it's going to be really hot. It's going to be 34 degrees Celsius. I know for some of you, that's not hot at all. That's a rather normal day, but we're expecting today and tomorrow it to be really, really hot. So I think if I go for a walk today, I will probably do it right after this live stream before it gets too hot, or maybe I'll do it later in the day when it cools down a bit. So for those of you just joining, welcome to this lesson. I think I lost my sheet here. Apparently my papers are getting all mixed up. Here it is. Welcome. We are doing a lesson on our daily routines. Let me explain a little bit though. I put the daily grind. When we talk about the daily grind, it is a phrase we use to refer to work. So work is your daily grind. You know, you get up, you go to work, you come home. That's the daily grind. This lesson is more to talk about, let's see here. It's more to talk about what we all do throughout our day. So here's the first question coming in. Jan says, how do we say I need to go to the WC in a polite way? So in Canadian English, you just say, oh, could I use your washroom? Could I use your bathroom? So if you're at someone else's house and you have to go to the washroom or go to the bathroom, you just say, hey, could I use your bathroom? You can also say, oh, I just need to go to the bathroom before we leave. If you're talking to someone in your family or someone like that. It's very polite to mention that, for sure. Let me check the next question. Next question is, let me just move something here. This will make it simpler for me. There we go. Christiane says, what's the difference between awake and wake up? So as soon as you wake up, so if you're sleeping, you wake up when you open your eyes and you first become, when you're not sleeping. So when you transition from sleeping to not sleeping. And then as soon as you're not sleeping, you are awake. So you are either asleep or awake. That's how you use the word awake, Christiane. So hopefully that helps a bit. Oh, this is a good one. I forgot about this. Preacha says from Thailand, do we say snooze the alarm? In English, we say hit snooze. So an alarm clock, when it goes off, if you want to sleep for 5 or 10 more minutes, there's a snooze button. And when you press the snooze button, the alarm stops and you can sleep for 5 or 10 more minutes, depending on your alarm clock. So we say hit the snooze button or hit snooze. That's how we would say that, Preacha. Thanks, that was a great question. Lolly has a question here. She says, it's important to break the daily routine from time to time, isn't it? Yes. I think that's why we have weekends, so we can take a small break from the daily routine, for sure. Saeed has, I love this phrase. So this is like a saying in English. Saeed says, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise, isn't it? Yes, that's the phrase. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. We'll see if that happens. Some people have pets, so part of their daily routine. And we can also say morning routine. So we can say daily routine means the whole day, but we can also say their morning routine. Maybe they take the dog for a walk, that's one way of saying it, or they walk the dog. So a lot of people in North America have pets. And if you have a dog, often in the morning you'll get up and one of the first things you'll do is you'll take the dog for a walk or you'll walk the dog. If you hear some noise from outside, they're mowing the lawn right now, so that's maybe what you're hearing. Next, what should we do next? Well, usually we're hungry in the morning, so one of the first things I do once I am up and I am in the kitchen is I make breakfast. So sometimes I fry some eggs, but usually when it is the school year, I usually make oatmeal, and I usually have a couple boiled eggs with it. But this summer, because I don't go in to teach each day, I've been frying eggs and eating them on toast. So the next thing that you need to do is make breakfast. And then what do you think you do after you make breakfast? It's a pretty easy question, I think. After you make breakfast, you eat breakfast. So I also usually make a cup of coffee. So I make breakfast. Part of making breakfast is that I brew a cup of coffee or I make a cup of coffee. Some people have a cup of tea or orange juice or just water. But after you make breakfast, you eat breakfast. So you sit down at the kitchen table or wherever you sit to have breakfast and you eat breakfast. So I just see in the chat, there's a question, can we cook breakfast? Yes, you can also cook breakfast. So in English, you can say, I need to make breakfast or I need to cook breakfast if it involves cooking. Some people in Canada just eat cereal. So cereal comes in a box, you pour it in a bowl, and then you just put milk on top of it, and you don't need to cook it. So some people don't need to cook breakfast because they just eat cereal out of a box. So now people in the chat, excuse me, people in the chat are saying they're hungry now. That always happens. When we did the live lesson on food, people were hungry the whole time in the chat because we just kept talking about all different kinds of foods. You can do a search for that video sometime if you want. The next thing I do in the morning, so a lot of this is based on what I do, is I have a shower or I take a shower. So in English, you can say either. You know, I need to have a shower. It sounds funny, but we do say that. Did you have a shower yet? Do you need to have a shower? Or do you need to take a shower? So again, a shower is where water comes out and you wash your hair and you wash your body with soap and you have a shower or you take a shower in the morning. So Zanib is in the chat says in Australian English it's called breakfast or brekkie. We say brekkie sometimes. Probably not as often as our, let's see here. Probably not as often as our Australian cousins. Let's see here. Oh, Elena says, how do you break up? Elena says, what do you do for breaking up the annoying routine sometimes? I think it's just good to have a holiday once in a while or to enjoy the weekend once in a while. That can really break up the routine. Giselle says, Hello, Bob. What's the usual breakfast in Canada? I think the most common breakfast is cereal. So we eat cornflakes, Rice Krispies, Cheerios. I think that's very common. I think a lot of people eat oatmeal, and we do eat a lot of eggs. So we do fry eggs or boil eggs. Very, very common. Let's see here. Rami has a question. Are there any bad routines that you do when waking up? Sleeping in is the worst routine. Can you hear the lawnmower? A little bit. For me, that's the worst part. Sometimes I sleep in and then my morning is rushed because I spent too much time sleeping in. So I just talked about that you can have a shower, take a shower. People don't take baths as often as they used to in Canada. I think the shower is a quicker way to wash yourself, to wash up. People do take baths sometimes, but usually people will say things like, I just need to have a quick shower, because a shower is a lot quicker. And then after your shower, there's far more than just these, but you need to brush your teeth, maybe brush your hair, maybe you need to shave, maybe you need to comb your hair, maybe you need to put on makeup, right? Maybe you put on lipstick, maybe you put on eyeshadow and mascara, but you need to basically get yourself ready if you're going out. So generally you have a shower first, and then after the shower, you do what you need to do to get yourself ready. So I don't shave every day, but I do shave here and down here every couple of days. So that's not part of my daily routine. Some people though, they don't like to have a beard or mustache. So they do shave every day because they like to be clean shaven. So clean shaven is when you have no beard or mustache. I can't speak for women. I don't know what women all do in the morning. I can only really talk for myself, but usually it involves getting yourself ready. The one thing I didn't mention is I also then put on deodorant. So deodorant is something you put in your armpits so that you smell nice throughout the day. So usually that's one of the last things you do before you get dressed. So one of the last things you do as you get yourself ready for the day is you get dressed. So you can see this guy's buttoning up his shirt. You get dressed and you get ready to head out for the day. So we've had breakfast now, we've had a shower, we've brushed our teeth. Just one sec here. I'm still trying to kill flies, sorry. We're dressed, we're almost ready to go, but if you are like me and you don't like to buy your lunch, you need to make a lunch or pack a lunch. So you can see this person has made a sandwich, and they're putting their sandwich in a plastic container so that they can take a sandwich to work with them or to school or wherever they're going, so that they'll have a lunch with them. So I will often make a lunch, and my lunch does look like this. I usually bring a salad to work, but sometimes I bring a sandwich and it has a little bit of meat and some tomatoes on it or something like that. This is probably, it looks like a small cookie, so a snack, but you need to make your lunch. I'm not sure how many of you make a lunch, or if you go out and you actually buy a lunch every day. Sometimes people buy lunches. I'm gonna do a few questions here. I'm just gonna try and get through 5. Haiduki says, do you think getting up earlier when you get older? Don't you think do I think I'll get up earlier when I'm older? I think so. I think I like getting up early. I'll probably keep doing that. Next question is from Yoshi from Japan. Many Japanese people tend to say, I walk with my dog. Does it sound strange? Not necessarily. Usually in English we say, walk the dog. You could say walk with your dog. I go for a walk with my dog. Yes, you could say that. That totally sounds normal to me. Let me just see here. Nope, I missed it. I'm still, let's see. So I don't like to get into grammar too much, but Abind Tharian says, what tense do we use to describe our daily routines? If we write a diary of daily activities, which tense should we follow? So I would say you're gonna be talking in the past tense if it's the end of your day and you're writing about what you did that day, you would say, I got up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I ate breakfast. I made a lunch. So here's what I'm going to do though. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to do another video where I act out my daily routine, and I'm going to do it in the present, the past, and the future. So look for that video in a few weeks. I'm not sure when I'm going to be doing it, but I'll do it sometime in the next month, I think. Adjnier says, what is the usual lunch and dinner time in Canada? So we have lunch around noon, and we have dinner anywhere between 5 and 7. So an early dinner or supper would be around 5. Usually I think people are eating around 6 or 6:30 for their evening meal. Let's see here. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but well, that's fine. What should I use if it's evening? Dinner, or I have dinner, or I have supper? So it really depends where you are, and you kind of have to figure out what people say there. In my area, you can say, we're going to have dinner at 5, or we're going to have supper at 5, and both work fine. People would totally understand you, okay? Anyways, let's keep going. So what did we do last? We made a lunch. We packed a lunch. Now we're going to, this isn't really, well, it is really a thing. You need to grab your things, right, before you go out the door. Hello, Mr. Fly. So when I leave the house, I grab my keys, I grab my laptop, I grab my phone, whatever I grab my watch, I make sure I have my wedding ring on. So when I grab my things, it's kind of the last thing I do before I head out the door if I'm leaving that morning for work. So you need to grab your things. You don't want to forget anything. It's not very fun if you forget something at home and you have to go back home to get it. So let's see here. Now you're either going to go to work if you're leaving, or you're going to go to school if you're a kid or a university student. You might, though, part of your daily routine, you might work at home. So more and more professionals who work on computer are starting to work from home. So, or you might be what we call a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad. So this means you have small children, and part of your daily routine is that you're going to stay at home. There's probably other things, but Monday through Friday, when it is the school week or the work week, you're going to go to work, or you're going to go to school, or you might work at home. We also say work from home. That doesn't really make sense to you, does it? Oh, I work from home. So if you hear that, we do say that. Or you might be what we call a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad. Notice I say mom because I'm Canadian. If you are learning American English, you would say mom. It's hard for me to say that. In Canadian English, we say mom. So stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad. In American English, you would say stay-at-home mom. Mom. Can you hear that? I lived in Michigan for a little bit. Mom. Let's see here. I'm getting a lot of questions. I'm getting a little behind. I'll do a few more of them. Said says, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Isn't that how often you make eggs? Yeah, it probably has to do with eggs. Eggs are healthy. Did you know that? They tell you they're not, but I think they are. Elena says, how many bathrooms do you have for your big family? My house has 2 bathrooms, and that's pretty common in a Canadian home. Some houses have 3 bathrooms, but that's if you're a little richer. It's rare for a house to have 1 bathroom in Canada. Usually you have 2 bathrooms in Canada. Let's grab the next one here. Oh, I missed this one. So Anna says, what's the difference between comb your hair and brush your hair? Let me find that one back. So a brush, this is a hairbrush. So a hairbrush is wider than a comb. And it's usually used to brush your hair. Like, I don't know if you can see that. Whereas a comb just has 1 single row of teeth, okay? Both of these are used, obviously, to do your hair if you're getting your hair ready. Notice I don't use a brush or comb. I don't have, my hair, it just looks like this all the time. But if you have long hair, you might brush it or comb it. So hopefully that helps a bit. Let's see here. If you have to talk about, yes. Then you drive to work. You might take another method of transportation to work, but if you drive, you would drive to work. You might carpool. Carpooling is when you go to work in the same car with other people. So you pick up other people. So if you drive to work by yourself, that's just driving to work. But if you get in a car with 1, 2, or 3 other people or more, and you all ride in the same car to work, we call that carpooling. And we also call it your carpool. Like, oh, in my carpool, Jim's always talking about how cool it is to go skydiving or something, right? So a carpooling is when you ride together to work to save a bit of money. Hopefully that made sense. Thanks, nice haircut, thank you. Asgar, this is a good one. Asgar says, can we call things like brushing, shaving, etc. as grooming? Yes. So you could call that personal grooming. The common phrase is to just say, getting yourself ready. Oh, I'll be in the bathroom for a bit in front of the mirror. I'm just getting myself ready. We wouldn't often say I'm just grooming myself. It does work though. You can say it's personal grooming, but you would say, oh, I'm just going to be a bit. I have to get myself ready. Let's see. And Papi Chulo is here. Hi, Papi. Hi, Bob. Could you talk about the hustle and bustle of the city? As you know, we go to work every day, and the hustle and bustle is part of it. So the hustle and bustle of the city is like all the people walking along the street, the busyness, the cars, the honking, like beep, beep, the buses going by, the busyness that you feel when you're on a city street, especially during rush hour. So rush hour is when everyone in the world is going to work, or when everyone is coming home from work. We call that rush hour. I'll put it in the chat, rush hour. So usually in Canada, between 7 and 9 in the morning is rush hour. I know that's 2 hours, but it's just a general descriptor. So that's rush hour. And that's the time of day when everyone is driving, and there's a lot of hustle and bustle. So anyways, you might drive to work. You might take the bus or ride a bus. We usually say take the bus. You might take the train, or you might take the metro, or you might take the subway. There are a lot of different ways to get to work. So you might drive to work, you might take a bus or the bus. You can use both there, eh? Take a bus or take the bus. Like, oh, I take a bus to work, or I take the bus to work. Sorry that English is so confusing. Sometimes we don't follow our own rules. Or you can take the train or take the subway or take the metro in your city. I drive to work every day and I don't carpool. So when you get to work, I'm mostly going to talk about work now. So when you get to work, you say hi. So usually when I get to work, I say hi to all of my colleagues. So I get to work, I walk in the door. I usually put my lunch in the fridge. We have a staff room because I work at a school. It's called a staff room, and we have a fridge. So I put my lunch in the fridge and I say hi to all of my colleagues. So that's what I do when I get to work. Let's see here. So we'll talk about the bathroom for a little bit here. So Preacha says, how do I say excrete in a polite, natural way? For example, I didn't excrete this morning. So Preacha is talking about going to the bathroom. So if you want to know a really polite way, we don't often talk about what we are doing when we're on the toilet or when we use the toilet. But if you need to go number 1, it means that you have to pee. And if you say that you need to go number 2, it means you have to do the other thing, which is called pooping, okay? So when you are using the bathroom, if you really needed to tell someone, and usually we don't in English, we don't talk about going to the bathroom. Sometimes you'll say, oh, I just need to go number 1, which means that you need to take a pee. And you don't often say out loud that you need to do a number 2. So hopefully that makes sense to you. You should look up some more details. I think Todd's probably laughing at me right now as I'm trying to explain going to the bathroom in English. So here, let's take another one. Jan says, do you say put on your shoes or wear your shoes? Both. Like today I'm going to wear shoes. I'm going to wear shoes today. But when I actually put them on my feet, I would say I put on my shoes. But you could say, oh, I'm going to put on shoes today, or I'm going to wear shoes today. Both would totally work. Saeed says, how often do you eat? So Saeed, I eat a banana every day and I eat 2 eggs every day. That's part of my eating routine. So how often do you make eggs and what do you eat with your eggs? Usually I have some toast or some oatmeal. We're getting to, let's see, Kazuyo Yamashita says, we say I eat lunch. We can't say eat a lunch. Do we say I make a lunch or lunches? So if I'm making a lunch for me, I would say I'm going to make a lunch. But if I'm making a lunch for me and my kids, I would say I'm going to make lunches, okay? And then in English, we would say, I need to eat lunch. We wouldn't usually say I need to eat a lunch. We would just say, oh, I need to eat lunch. That would be the best way to say it. I'm just gonna pause for a sec to say, don't forget to subscribe. If you're new here, we're doing a lesson on our daily routines. Give me a thumbs up. And for all of you, don't forget that tomorrow, if you watch this again, you can watch the replay. There will be subtitles in English down here. I know that helps some of you a lot. Yes, bananas are good for my health. Let's see here. Susanna says, what is your favorite part of your daily routine? I think breakfast is my favorite part. I really like breakfast. It is a nice meal of the day. I really enjoy it. And sometimes I get up just because I'm hungry. So I wake up and I'm laying in bed. I'm still a little tired, but then I'm so hungry, I get up. Let's see here. What is... Rani says, what is the verb to beep beep in your car? So we honk. So you honk the horn in your car. That's what you say to make it go beep beep. Let's see here. Rami Salip says, before I drive to work, I check the tires and the car's temperature. That's always a good idea to make sure your vehicle's in good working condition. So then you're at work, you've said hi to everybody, and I'm not going to talk about work, but usually in Canada, you work for about 2 or 3 hours, and then you take what we call morning coffee break. Even if you don't drink coffee, we still call it a coffee break. So it's usually a 10-minute break, a short break mid-morning, in the middle of the morning, where after working for 2 or 3 hours, you stop and you have something to drink, and you have something to eat. So that's the morning coffee break. In other countries, you might call it just morning break. You might call it tea time. It might have a different name. Then around noon or 12:30, around that time, you have lunch break or lunchtime. You can call it either. And this is where you would sit with your coworkers. You would sit with your colleagues. And you would have lunch. So you have lunch break. So if you brought a sandwich, you would eat your sandwich. Sometimes people go out for lunch. I don't, because I don't like to spend money. But sometimes people will go out for lunch. So during their lunch break, they will go to a restaurant to have lunch. Usually in Canada, a lunch break is about 30 minutes, about half an hour, and then you get back to work. Later in the afternoon, you usually have either tea time or coffee break. So there's another break, usually around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You have another short break from work. So you sit down and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Even if you don't drink coffee during the coffee break, it's still called afternoon coffee break or afternoon break. Either one works. So you take another small break. And usually in Canada, you work till about 5. So the normal work day in Canada is 8 to 5. Some people work 9 till 6. Some people work 7 till 5:30. But somewhere in there, people work anywhere. People work about 8 to 10 hours a day. I can't type in Canada. Some people work longer. Some people work a lot longer. At the end of the day, you would say goodbye to your coworkers. You would say, see you later, or you would say, see you tomorrow, because you see them every day. So the work day's done. Let me do a few more questions. Hyde says, is homeschooling common in Canada? Yes, it's fairly common. Homeschooling is when you teach your own kids at home. So instead of them going to school, you teach your kids at home yourself, and you are allowed to do that in Canada. Anna says, is there any difference between the metro and the subway? So this depends on the city you live in, and I don't know the proper name in each city, but different cities call their metro or their subway or their train. Some people call it the L. I think that's in Chicago because it's elevated. So it really depends on the city. So when I go to Toronto, I take the train to Toronto. Once I get off the train, I can then take the subway because it's underground. So it's just a little different. You have to really check the local city to find out. Oh, and Selena had the same question. So let's see. Miguel's question is, to go for a walk or run in Canada, what's more common in the morning or afternoon? Many people exercise before work, and a lot of people exercise after work. So they're both very common times. I wouldn't be able to say which is the most common. Let's see here. Oh yeah, how. This is a great one. So How says, hi Bob, how do we use the phrase roll out of bed? So after you wake up in the morning, we have a phrase where we say, well, I rolled out of bed at 8 o'clock this morning, or I rolled out of bed at 7 o'clock. So because when you're in bed, you can roll, right? You roll a bit to get out of bed. That's how we say that phrase. Let's see here. Myonji says, do you drop your kids off at school or do they use a school bus? Actually both. So I bring my older kids to school and my younger kids get picked up by a school bus. Amy has a question in the chat, just says, for example, do you say go to run or go running? You could say go for a run, or you could say go running. That's how you would say it. Like, oh, I need to go for a run for exercise. Some people go out after work. So some people work all day, and sometimes on a Friday, when the work day is done, they will go out after work with their coworkers, with their colleagues. So they might go out to have a drink, they might go out to have just a little bit to eat. But people who like to work together sometimes go out after work. But mostly, you're getting ready to go home. So you're done your work day. The verb we use is to go home, is to go, and we say that, okay, I'm going to go home. The work day is done. You can see this lady is biking towards her house. But people are asking, is the school bus free? In Canada, you pay taxes, and then you pay a lot of taxes, and then things don't cost you money, but you do pay a lot of taxes to the government. So kind of hard to say if it's free. Before you go home, though, you might need to run some errands. So when you run errands, they're the little things that you need to do to have a good life. You might go and pick up your mail. We would consider that running an errand. Not everyone's mail in Canada comes to their house. Sometimes you have to go to a post office box to pick them up. You might pick up a few groceries. So we would say this all falls under the category of running errands. So you would say, after work, before I go home, I need to run an errand or two. I need to go and run errands. Usually after work, I pick up water sometimes, or I get a few groceries. I run a few errands. Let me just check for a few more questions. Newt says, hello, Bob. What should I say between I just reached home or I just arrived? Oh, you should say I just arrived home. Like if you're home and the phone rings and you pick up the phone and you say, hey, I just arrived home. You know, we wouldn't really say that. It's correct. We would actually say, I just got home. I just got home. So you do arrive at home. Hopefully I'm explaining this right. When I drive into my driveway, I would say I am arriving at home. But if you were to reference that when talking to someone, you would say, oh, I got home at 5, or I just got home. Usually, now we talk about food again, it's always part of your daily routine, right? We either make supper, or we make dinner, or we prepare supper or prepare dinner. But usually in English, we say make. So last night, I needed to make supper. And the question often comes up about supper and dinner. So where I live in Canada, you can use either. If I said to someone, we eat supper at 5, they would understand me. If I said we eat dinner at 5, they would understand me. But in some parts of the English-speaking world, these are different. So you will need to do some research yourself about the two, okay? Because some places might not use supper. But we have supper. I think we use supper more in my house. After you make supper or make dinner, you eat dinner and you eat supper. So you sit down, and hopefully you sit down at a table with your family and you take some time to eat supper and to eat dinner. That's my second favorite part of my daily routine. My first favorite part is breakfast. My second favorite part is supper. Let's see here. There's a question from Bob, do you teach English in Canada? I did not teach English this year. I might be teaching English next year though, again. But I do teach French, which is a language. So I am a language teacher. I understand how to teach languages, and I teach computer studies and business. So Saeed says, tomato and honey with eggs would be great. That sounds yummy, actually. Honey is one of my favorite foods. Alina says, do you usually get together with all the family members for dinner? So in our house, my wife and myself and our 5 kids, we try every evening to sit together and have a meal together. I would say we do that 5 days out of the week, usually 6. There's some evenings where we're very busy and there's no time, but we decided as parents that it was good to just sit and have a meal together every day, because you get a chance to talk. You can ask the kids how school was, etc., etc. Daro says, so supper is dinner. In where I live, Daro, supper is dinner. It is the same thing, okay? When you're done eating, this is my least favorite part of the day, you need to wash the dishes or do the dishes. So in English, especially where I live, we say do the dishes. After supper, we need to do the dishes, or we need to wash the dishes. If you are learning British English, I believe they say, don't quote me on this, but I think they call it the washing up. But in Canada, we say we had supper and then we had to do the dishes. We had to wash the dishes. So both will work. Let me see here if there's any more questions. Saeed says, how often do you go to the disco? I don't go to the disco very often, Saeed. Actually, I don't ever go to the disco. Bob the Canadian's not a dancing man. I'm on the way. Oh, here's one. Rani says, a few capitals here. Bob, which one is right? I'm on the way or I'm in the way, on the road or in the road. So let me explain those quickly. If I say I'm on the way, that means I'm driving or walking from one place to another. So I'm on the way. If I'm in the way, it means someone's walking and they can't get past me because I'm in the way. Okay, so on the way means you're driving somewhere. In the way means this person, like I'm walking along and I can't get past, this person is in the way. Second one, on the road means that you're driving somewhere. Hey, I'm on the road. I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'm on the road right now. If you're in the road, it's the same. You're in the road of someone, you're blocking them from getting past you. Let's see here. Okay, Miroslav is here. Thanks for the mug, Miroslav. I got it the other day. It's very, very cool. I think you're the same Miroslav. So thanks for the mug, Miroslav. Anyways, Miroslav says, early bird gets the worm. I love mornings the most, so good morning. Yeah, mornings. If you can get up on time, you can get a lot done in the morning. It's one of the best times of day to do that. So let's see here. Eunice is asking me to describe my daily routine. I'm kind of doing that a bit. Saeed says, drive at home or drive into home or just drive home? Just drive home. The first two, you don't drive at home. That's just not correct. If you drive into the home, it means you took your car and you hit your house, okay? So I drove into my house or I drove into my home. So don't say that, but just drive home. So after this live stream, I'm going to drive home. Let's see, what do you make for dinner? So our common dinners, Kazuyo Yamashito says, what do you make for dinner? We really try to have 1 or 2 vegetables, sometimes green beans or peas. We usually have some kind of meat, usually chicken or beef, and then we usually have sometimes potatoes, sometimes something called pierogies, or sometimes pasta. So we kind of tried to make a nice dish there. Anyways, let's continue with the lesson. After you do the dishes or wash the dishes, sometimes you just clean up the house a little bit. So in our house, part of our routine is after the dishes are done, we sweep the floors. Each of the kids sometimes cleans up a different part of the house because we like to keep our house tidy. So we do a little bit of cleanup. By the way, our house isn't very tidy, but we try to keep it tidy. I'm not sure if you understand that. Sometimes after that, I will sit down because I'm kind of older and I still watch television, and I might watch the news on TV. So sometimes we turn the TV on. In Canada, there is the 6 o'clock news. So at 6 o'clock at night, most television stations have the news. So I might sit down and watch the news for an hour. I might read a book for a little bit. So I might sit down and read a book. My kids will most likely do homework if it's the school year. So they'll sit down and do some homework. And then sometimes if they need help, I'll help them with homework. But I'll tell you this, most of my kids have not needed a lot of help with homework. I think my kids are pretty smart. So they usually sit down and do some homework. All of them have a desk somewhere in the house where they can sit down and do that. So during the school year, we try to make sure they get their homework done. I was going to say something else. Sometimes I read a book. Sometimes I just watch TV, or I watch YouTube, or I watch Netflix. So I am often, after supper, my daily routine is to sit down for a bit. And there's a couple YouTubers, just like you watch me, there's a couple YouTubers I like to watch. There's 2 French YouTubers, actually 3. I like to watch Cyprien, Natu, and Normand fait des vidéos. Those are my 3 favorite French YouTubers. So if they have a new video, I'll watch them. And there's a couple English YouTubers I watch. Or I'll watch something on Netflix, or just on the regular television. Let's see. Gonna see here. Oh, I'm just gonna do a couple questions. Preacher says, when we say dine, does it mean having dinner? No, so dine is kind of a formal word for eating. Like, I'm going to go out and dine with Jennifer this evening at a fancy restaurant. Like, dine is when you're talking about eating, but it's like fancy eating. So we actually don't use the word dine very much, but it does mean to eat together. Let's see here. House says, is it common breakfast in your family to have an omelet? So an omelet is an egg mixed up with other ingredients and then fried in a frying pan. We did just have an omelet 2 days ago. We had an egg and ham omelet. It was really, really yummy. But it's not super common. It is common-ish, but usually people just fry an egg and eat the egg as it is. So let me get through this. Some people check social media, so you can see here we have all the common ones. We have, wait, is WeChat on here? It might not be. Sorry, people in China. But Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WeChat, WhatsApp, Google Plus is not a thing anymore, Twitter. So people sometimes sit and check their social media in the evening, and then they say goodnight. When it's time to go to bed, people in a house will say goodnight to each other, and they will get ready for bed. So if it's evening and it's time for me to go to bed, I get ready for bed. That's what we say. Some people put on pajamas. This lady, I think, is wearing pajamas. I couldn't find a nice picture of someone in pajamas that wasn't risque. If you don't know what risque is, it means not appropriate for Bob the Canadian's lesson. So people get ready for bed. There's a few things that people do. Yeah, Google Plus is dead, says Wendy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Google Plus is dead. Before people go to bed, they use the bathroom or they go to the bathroom. And part of people's daily routine is they might go to the bathroom a lot more during the day than I mentioned, but that is part of it. In Canada, we brush our teeth before we go to bed. So we take a few minutes just to brush our teeth before we go to bed. And then, of course, you get in bed. So we sometimes say crawl into bed. So you get in bed or you crawl into bed. So the opposite of roll out of bed, so that was kind of like the informal way to say get up. The opposite of that is to crawl into bed. So you don't literally crawl, but it's another way to get into bed. Let me just check the questions here, folks. Oh, there's a lot more questions, sorry. First one's from Selena. What's the difference between head back home or go back home? Which one should I use to say retourner à la maison? I would say head back home is totally common and go back home is totally common. You could use both, absolutely. So after this, I'm going to head back home. After this lesson, I'm going to go back home. Both are totally fine to use, Selena. Yep, absolutely. There's a few grammar questions on the spreadsheet, so please don't be offended if I don't answer them. Because I want to stay on topic. Rami Salip says, how come you don't take a nap after lunch? I do sometimes. On Saturdays and Sundays, I will take a nap after lunch. But because during the school year when I'm working, there is no time to take a nap, and it wouldn't be good if your boss found you napping at work. That would be a bad thing. John Quito says, I play football through the evening in the evening. That's cool. So you go outside and you do some of that. My kids play a little bit of basketball right now, so that's kind of fun to watch. Before you go to sleep, you would set the alarm clock. So you set the alarm clock or set the alarm. This should actually say set the alarm clock and set the alarm. Sorry, I made a mistake there. Hopefully you guys can correct that. So you would set the alarm clock or set the alarm. Here's your alarm clock. And then the very last thing you would do is you would go to sleep. And hopefully you don't have trouble sleeping or trouble getting to sleep. For me, I turn the lights out. I should have put that on there too. Turn the lights out, I close my eyes, and within 5 minutes, I'm sleeping. I fall asleep very, very quickly, and I usually don't have trouble sleeping. If I say, if someone has trouble sleeping, that means they wake up a lot in the night. So sometimes they have trouble. So that's all of my slides. I'm gonna go through questions now. And I'll probably just take 5 minutes and then we'll be done. Saeed says, what's the difference between clean up and clean? So when I clean up the house, I'm actively picking things up or sweeping or mopping. When I am done cleaning up, the house is clean, okay? So it's in a state of being clean. Let's see here. Here's a good one. Felipe says, from Brazil, says, good morning, Bob. I really admire you. Please wish a good morning to my wife, Anna. Hi, Anna. Good morning. Oh, sorry. Hi, Anna. Good morning. I looked at the wrong camera. We are having breakfast right now. You should try our food, couscous. It's delicious. I will try to do that. I'm always interested in trying something new. Again, if you're asking grammar questions, I'm going to avoid them right now. I'd like to stay on topic. Oh yeah, hi Miroslav. Good. Yes, I was very thankful. You're an awesome person, Miroslav. Let's see here. Thank you for listening. Oh yes. So Ilya says, hi Bob, thank you for your lesson. I really like it. Do you allow your children to play computer games, or what is the main activity of your children when they have free time? So we strongly encourage our kids to read and to do other things besides being on the computer. And we have a certain time slot where they're allowed to use the computer. We call it computer time, and it happens in the afternoon. But we like to see them play outside a bit, practice their piano, read a book. We like to see them do other things because we don't want them to be on the computer all the time. So we have some rules in our house for that. That's a great question. Question back about breakfast again. Hi, Bob, the Canadian, Morocco. I like your videos. What's the typical Canadian breakfast? I think it's either cereal, like if you do a search for cornflakes, Cheerios, Rice Krispies. These are the most common cereals. And then other than that, people have toast with jam, toast with eggs, or oatmeal. Those would be very, very common. Hey, just while I still have all of you here, don't forget to watch this video again tomorrow. There will be English subtitles down here tomorrow. That really will help some of you if you're having trouble understanding. And if you're new here, please subscribe. There's a red button there, and give me a thumbs up. I just like to make sure I mention that because it's nice when people get a little reminder that I like to have more subs. But I have way too many now, don't I? I think there might be too many. Anyways, did I hear correctly? You said commonish. I'm not sure I said that. Let me say it out loud. Did I hear correctly? You said commonish. Would you explain what it means with the suffix ish? So we use ish. We add ish to words when we mean it's not exactly that. So let's say the sky is blue. I could say my shirt, it's bluish. So it's not quite blue, it's bluish. Or you could say, let's see, I like to drink my tea a little kind of coldish. It's very informal, just so you know. Like it's not super common, and you wouldn't use it in formal English, but we add ish to the end of some words just for fun. It's kind of playful. I try not to do it in my live streams, so I hope that I don't make too many mistakes. What's your routine today? Oh, so my routine today is do a live lesson. Go home, and I'm going to work on the farm today. So because it's summer, I am a teacher, so I don't have to come to work every day, but I do come to work to do this live stream. And then I'm going to do a little bit of work on the farm, and I might have a nap after lunch today, even though it's a Friday. Let's see here. I'm going to ask, we're going to shut down the questions now, just so that you know. I'm just going to get through what's there. Saeed says, would you please explain what back out means when you're trying to say no to a request? So if I say I'm going to do a lesson at a certain time, and then I decide not to do that lesson, we would say that I backed out of the lesson. So this is me physically backing out. But if you say you're going to do something, and then you later say you're not going to do it, we would say that you backed out. We often use this for deals. Sometimes people make a deal to buy something, and then they back out of the deal. So that's something that happens. Let's see. Oh, Mauricio, I was talking about having trouble sleeping, and Mauricio says, have you ever experienced sleepwalking? It's kind of creepy. No. So sleepwalking is when in the middle of the night, you get up and you walk around and you're still sleeping. I have not ever done that, but some people do have trouble sleeping, and sometimes they sleepwalk. So it's a dining room. Saeed says, hey Bob, what's the dining room? So a dining room is the room in the house where people eat. Not a lot of people have dining rooms. So we eat in our kitchen. So our kitchen is big enough that it has a stove, an oven, and cupboards, and it has a big table. Some people, in addition to a kitchen, will have a dining room, which is just a really nice table where people sit to eat. Often dining rooms are used when you have guests, but I think it's less common now in Canadian homes to have a kitchen and a dining room. Most people just eat in their kitchen. That was a great question. What are the rules when you eat food with your family? No rules. Be polite. No cell phones or smartphones at the table. Everyone needs to share if there's not enough. Be kind while you're eating. Those are the rules when we are eating. Oh, Vladislav. Oh, this is a great one. So Vladislav says, what's chore, or chores actually? Is it only related to domestic work? Not really. So we do chores around the house. So our kids have chores, and I have chores. So it's things like replace a light bulb, sweep the floor, clean the toilets. All of those are household chores. We also have farm chores. So these are things that we do every day on the farm. So we go and do the chores. So chores is a good way to describe any kind of daily routine, okay? Usually it would be in a house, sometimes on a farm, not usually at work. Like I don't have chores at work, but I do have chores at home, and I have chores on the farm. So you might want to look that one up as well. Look up the word chores. So Oscar says, let me just check the time here. So Oscar says, I appreciate your live streams. Could you explain the difference between want and fancy? Thanks a lot. So we don't use the word fancy a lot in Canadian English. I think it's a little more British. But you could say, oh, I want a cup of tea, or I fancy a cup of tea. Both of them would mean that you want a cup of tea. In Canadian English, we would just say, I want a cup of tea. Vinicius is here. Hi, Vinicius. Good to see you again. How's it going? Do you have any food from your farm your family eats for your daily routine? So we don't grow any fruits or vegetables on our farm. We only grow flowers because when we go to market and we sell our flowers, we have been beside the same farmer who has their booth there for, I think, 15 years. And we trade flowers for fresh fruits and vegetables. It's a really good deal, Vinicius. It's easier to do it that way. We're good at growing flowers, and him and his wife are good at growing fruits and vegetables. Matthew says, my question is, what do you think about Anki? Do you think it is a good way to learn English? So Anki is a piece of software that lets you make flashcards, and I think it is a great way to learn English. Here we go, last question, folks. Alina says, how do you say to kiss my kids goodnight or to kiss for the night? So you would say that you kiss your kids goodnight. So a couple of things about kids. You tuck your kids in. That means you make them all snug in their bed with their blankets. So you put their blanket on. So you tuck your children in, and then usually you give them a kiss on the forehead. You say kiss goodnight or a kiss on the cheek. So you would kiss your kids goodnight. That's how you do it. That's it, everybody. We're done. Thanks for coming. That was a lesson on daily routine. I try to keep it only 1 hour. Please make sure, if you need to, come back tomorrow and watch this again with the subtitles on. I know a lot of you don't need subtitles, and that's good. But if you do need subtitles, come back. I think it takes about 12 hours, but for sure tomorrow, and give this lesson another watch. Let's say thanks Todd for moderating the chat. I don't know if Todd's going to say bye, but I'm just going to say bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. Live lesson tomorrow at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So don't forget, if you want a live conversation and listening practice. Don't forget to watch again tomorrow with subtitles if you need them. Thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe. I think I spelled that right. Anyways, I'm going to push the button. Again, thanks everybody for coming.